What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new video here on my YouTube channel. And for those of you that are new around here and don't know who I am, my name's Aaron. I create travel, photography and videography based content here on YouTube. So if that is something that will interest you, be sure to subscribe to the channel. But as you can tell by the title, today I'm going to be discussing with you how you can secure the cheapest travel possible. And whilst this video will focus on flights, I will discuss other methods of transportation and I will go into some Interrail tips. So if you do find this video useful at any point, be sure to let me know by smashing that like button. Put any comments or questions down below in the comment section. If you have any tips yourself, put them down below to help others out. And obviously check out the linked playlist on screen right now, which is some more travel related content. But let's just jump into the video. Okay, so the first tip will be Interrail based, and basically the best method to secure the cheapest Interrail pass possible, as I'm presuming most people will be going for the global pass. Interrail do have sales, and if you have been thinking about Interrail and you've probably been on the website quite a lot, and you've probably noticed they do tend to have 10 to 15% sales quite often. But there's a pattern to them. I noticed it when I booked mine a year ago, and I've noticed it and told other people since. And it's basically at the end of each month, which I'll be showing you on screen right now, that is when they have their sales. So it's basically around payday. So they're obviously very, very crafty around it. Most people in the UK get paid at the end of the month. So they put a sale on lasting around a week. So it actually ends on the start of the next month. And it's basically always 10 to 15% off global passes. So if you are looking to Interrail and you want to know when the best time to book an Interrail pass is, it's always at the end of the month. Just check out their Twitter, their Facebook, and obviously the Interrail website for more information. And obviously just keep an eye on the Interrail website at them dates, as you will tend to see that there will be 15% off, which does go a long way, especially when Interrail passes are hundreds of pounds. So that it comes in very, very handy. Okay, so let's talk about flights. And the first tip is one you've probably heard quite regularly, but I will just go over it again. And it is to delete your search history, and that obviously includes cookies and stuff like that. And the reason for that is the travel airlines, the travel agencies, whatever you're trying to get your flights on, even the price comparison websites will track what you are looking at. So if you've been looking at flights to Croatia for a specific time point for months on end, maybe weeks, just waiting for the price to come down, it's not going to come down. And the reason is they know you are monitoring it. They know you want to go. They know you're probably going to purchase it, so they don't have to bring the price down. Whereas your friend could actually go on that website and look for the exact same flights on the exact same date with no history of actually searching for that specific flight or destination. And they will get it cheaper than you purely because their history does not have them basically searching for that flight over and over again. These websites are clever, and to be fair, it's a good way of making money. They will just track what people are looking at, and obviously if you have a history of wanting to go on a certain flight or go on a certain date, then the prices will go up. So obviously use a different device, go in incognito mode, private browser, or just delete your search history altogether when it comes to booking the flight, and obviously searching for flights in the preparation for that. Now my next tip is to pick regions over destinations. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to Europe and you need to fly into Europe, maybe you're coming from America, just search the whole of Europe as the place you're going to fly into. Don't be set on, right, I'm going to fly into Paris and that's where the trip will begin, or I'm going to fly into Paris because I'm going to Paris. I know that sounds crazy. Even if you are going to just one destination, look for airports that are quite close by. Maybe just look for airports in France, and then you could even get a connecting flight or a train, as it will actually work out cheaper more often than not. And obviously if you're doing a big trip, so maybe you are interrailing around Europe, don't just get set on one destination. I have mentioned this in the video linked on screen, but basically just search the whole of Europe, and whichever works out cheapest for places you want to visit. Don't just fly into somewhere that's in the middle of nowhere that you have no intention of going to. But say you have a list of 10 destinations, search for all of them 10 destinations and then pick the cheapest one and fly into there and start your route around that destination. It just saves you a lot of money and a lot of hassle, obviously, than flying to somewhere else because you wanted to go there first. You desperately want to get there. At the end of the day, if you're interrailing or if you're traveling around Southeast Asia and you have a specific route, it doesn't really matter which way you're going to go because you will get to all these places in the end. Now my next tip is price comparison websites, and obviously you all know what they are, and you're probably thinking, we've been told about this stuff thousands of times, but basically I'm just going to go over my 3 top ones and explain why I like them particularly. So Skyscanner is the one that I use quite often because it does literally just give you pretty much every flight. Now with these price comparison websites, not all airlines will actually show up on there, so that is a tip that you need to look out for. If you want to fly with a specific airline and you're not seeing it on Skyscanner or any of the other price comparison websites, it may not actually be part of it, so go and check their individual websites. But Skyscanner is great because you can actually search country to country, or even just from your specific airport that you're going to be leaving from. So for me, I'll fly from Liverpool or Manchester. I can just type Liverpool or Manchester in and just leave the next box empty, and it will show me the prices for every single place in the world. And you can also search by month. So if you're going traveling and you know that you're going to be leaving in July, but you don't know really what date, and obviously you're flexible, you can just search Manchester, July, and see wherever you want to go, which is a great option. Google Flights has a similar function where you can just put in your starting destination, and then you can actually search the whole of the world, and it will give you the prices for the flights on the specific day or over the specific, time point. And that's a great option to have. But my favorite one is Kayak, and it's the Explore feature, and that basically lets you put in your budget, your starting point, so obviously again Manchester or Liverpool for me, and what you're kind of interested in, and it will give you some options, some ideas for what you want to go and do, where you want to go and visit, and obviously you can research from there. But as I said, obviously use the tips from earlier on with the in-private browsing, and obviously use them price comparison websites for the best results. Now my next tip often gets overlooked, but sign up to the newsletters for both price comparison websites, but mainly for the airlines specifically. So if you are going to be flying to Southeast Asia and a select bunch of airlines actually fly there, for me, I knew that it was probably going to be between Qatar, Emirates and Etihad Airways. I signed up for all 3 newsletters from them separate airlines because they will then send out discounts on occasion, maybe flash sales, which only last a day. And it's worth having just an email address which you don't really tend to pay much attention to, you don't use for any real importance. You just have a load of these newsletters coming to, and often you may actually get a good sale. So always sign up to the price comparison websites and the airlines themselves. Newsletters and budget airlines are particularly great for this within each region, which is a point I'll get into in a moment. Now my next tip is to use price alerts, and Kayak again is one of the best for this. They do provide you price alerts, and they actually provide you an estimation, I should say, as to whether the price will go up or down, and it gives you basically a guide to when is the best time to book for that specific flight, which is a great option to have. And then another one which I have used on occasion, but I do prefer Kayak's option, is Airfare Watchdog, I believe it's called, which again just tracks the prices of flights. So it is a good option to have, especially if you are set on a specific flight to a specific place. Once you've done all the other research, then you can just wait for the price to be right, and obviously these websites are key to doing so. Now in terms of what flights should you actually go on, red-eye flights and early morning flights tend to be the cheapest. Sometimes if you're flying with a budget airline, specifically within Europe, if I'm flying to somewhere like Paris or Amsterdam or Berlin, early morning flights tend to be the most expensive because they want people to go later in the day because it's a budget airline. They know if they go in the morning, it's more value to the customer because they'll have longer time there. But if you're going on a long journey flight, so for me, for example, I'm going to Bangkok later in this year, and I've got a red-eye flight which basically leaves Manchester at 9 o'clock at night, and red-eye is basically where you are flying through the night, and obviously I don't land until about 6 p.m. local time the next day, so I'm obviously traveling through the night, and they often are the cheapest flights because not many people actually want to travel on them. People will prefer to fly on an early morning or mid-afternoon flight, so it's prime time for them to actually do their traveling. They don't want to be tired on the plane where they have to sleep or anything like that, so try red-eye flights if you are flexible and if you want to do so. Now my next tip is to book everything in parts. Never book return flights unless it does actually work out cheaper, but 99 times out of 100 it won't. Book everything in parts. So if you're flying to Bangkok like I am and you know you're going to be coming back later in the year, don't book the return flights because you'll often get caught out with prices and it reduces your flexibility. You don't want to be set on coming back on a certain date, so book everything in parts. Book the first flight and then book the next flight. And if you're traveling somewhere which requires a connecting flight, research if it's actually cheaper to book them in separate parts. Now the downside to that is if one of the flights gets cancelled and you've booked it together, you are covered, but if you've booked it separately, you're not covered because it's with completely different bookings, and obviously they expect you to be there for the next flight. So if you're maybe with EasyJet for the first flight and Ryanair for the next one, if your EasyJet flight gets cancelled leaving the UK to go to Germany, and then your Germany flight to Italy or something like that is fine, they expect you to already be in Germany. So if you miss that flight, there's nothing you can do. But 9 times out of 10, it won't happen, and it's obviously a much cheaper option. So consider doing that if you need to get a connecting flight. My next tip is to fly during the week and avoid holidays, which is basically school holidays. Flying during the week is obviously much cheaper because most people tend to work, and obviously the demand for flights at weekends for stuff like city breaks and obviously just quick getaways for the weekend, maybe if there is a long weekend, it obviously drives the price up. So if you can fly during the week, do so, and obviously just don't fly during the holidays because the price goes up significantly, because they know the demand for flights is going to be much higher, and airlines are allowed to do that. But that is a tip that most of you will already know. Now, a tip that not many people do actually know is to book your flights on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Flash sales tend to be on these days, but the reason for that is because internet activity is usually at its lowest during these days, basically because everyone during the weekend has a lot more spare time. So whilst they may be doing stuff outside, it also allows more people to be online and searching for these type of things. You also get a lot of time to think about holidays during the weekend, so a lot of people do tend to book them during the weekends. During Mondays and Fridays as well, people are still kind of in that phase of it's still the weekend or it's about to be the weekend. So in the middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even sometimes Thursday is the best time to book. And as I said, that's when most of the sales tend to be, because they have the lowest amount of users searching for flights, so they need to drive the interest up. Now, when to book your flights is a good question, and I tend to find that 3 months to 3 weeks before is the best time, regardless of whether it's domestic or internationally. That just tends to be when the best prices are, because obviously it's not too far away where the prices are very, very high and they've yet to decide what price it's going to be, and it's not too close where the demand is obviously starting to outweigh the amount of availability on the flight. One of the big things is to research how busy that route is, how busy the airline is for that specific flight. If you're flying on a flight that obviously has very low demand, then wait for as soon as possible as you can for the flight. And obviously if it's got a lot of demand, book well in advance. But that just goes with a bit of common sense. But that is all for this video. If you did find any of these tips useful, as I said at the start of the video, be sure to let me know by leaving a like. Put any of your tips down below in the comments section. And obviously, if you do like this travel related content, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. But thank you all for watching, guys. Till next time, goodbye.